Iran's launched nearly 200 missiles at Israel, which it says is in response to the assassination of the leaders of Hamas and Hezbollah, as well as a top Iranian commander. Israel says a response is coming, but Iran warns it's ready to attack again if provoked. Hamda Sahout begins our coverage from Jordan's capital, Amman. Just a reminder, that's because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel.
In Tel Aviv, the sound of sirens reverberated throughout the city, and explosions lit up the night skies overhead. Israel's air defenses intercepting some of the almost 200 ballistic missiles launched by Iran toward the country. The projectiles even seen in the Jordanian skies over Amman. Israel's army called Iran's actions a serious attack. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu addressed the nation, insisting the attack had failed and vowed it would not go unanswered.
Iran made a big mistake tonight, and it will pay for it. The Iranian regime doesn't understand our determination to defend ourselves or our resolve to strike back at our enemies.
Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps says the attack was in response to the assassinations of Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah, Hamas political chief Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran, as well as the killings of several Iranian military officials. Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian released a statement saying, "Based on legitimate rights with the aim of peace and security for Iran and the region, a decisive response was given to the aggressions of the Zionist regime. This action was in defense of the Iranian interests and citizens. Netanyahu should know that Iran is not warmongering, but it will firmly stand against any threat. This is just a glimpse of our capabilities. Do not engage in conflict with Iran." For his part, U.S. President Joe Biden reiterated America's full support for Israel.
At my direction, the United States military actively supported the defense of Israel, and we're still assessing the impact. But based on what we know now, the attack appears to have been defeated and ineffective. And this is testament to Israeli military capability and U.S. military. It's also a testament to intensive planning between the United States and Israel to anticipate and defend against the brazen attack we expected.
And the question now is what comes next. In this dangerous cycle of escalation, uncertainty throughout the region is very much on the rise, and fears of a broader conflict throughout the Middle East are at an all-time high. Hamda Sahout, Al Jazeera, Amman.
Well, some of those Iranian missiles reportedly landed close to the headquarters of Mossad in northern Tel Aviv. Video shows a large crater in the middle of the road that is believed to be near Israel's intelligence agency. It happened hours after Hezbollah said it had also launched missiles at the agency earlier on Tuesday. U.S. military officials have confirmed that 2 naval destroyers were used to intercept some of Iran's missiles. Phil Lavelle is in Washington, D.C. for us. Phil, I understand that Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin has been talking about this. What's he been saying?
Yeah, hi, Rob. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin talks regularly to Yoav Gallant in Israel, his Israeli counterpart, on a daily basis. Usually we tend to hear the same thing. It's all about protecting Israel, shoulder to shoulder, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, there's a bit more context in light of what happened here. So this latest release or statement that we got from the call says, and I quote, "We condemn this outrageous act of aggression by Iran. We call on Iran to halt any further attacks, including from its proxy terrorist groups." And then it goes on to warn Iran, "We will never hesitate to protect our forces and interests in the Middle East." Obviously aware of the fact that there is a significant US force in that part of the world. It has been building up for months, ever since the killing of Ismail Haniyeh. We've had the USS Abraham Lincoln there. We've got the USS Harry Truman on its way. At some point in the coming weeks, there's going to be some 40,000 US personnel stationed in that part of the world. So obviously the US putting Iran on notice there. We've heard from President Biden, as we just heard in that report, speaking a little bit earlier. He was talking about standing shoulder to shoulder with Israel and saying that this intensive planning to anticipate and defend had been what worked. There were 12 interceptor missiles used here. And of course, we've got those destroyers in the region at the moment. But overall, the message here is what we've been hearing over and over again, and it is about that ironclad support. Joe Biden didn't just say that he fully supports Israel. He said Israel is supported fully, 3 fullies there, really emphasizing that point, which we've heard time and time again. But at the moment is particularly poignant.
Phil, when we've reported on incidents like this in the past, it's usually emerged afterwards that there has been some sort of back-channel communication between various entities, if you like, that are involved in it. Did the US get any advance warning of this attack by Iran?
Well, it says it didn't get any warning from Iran. Obviously, the US knew this was coming because it was telegraphing that an attack was imminent before it happened. Now, it seems likely that that came either from intelligence. Perhaps they could see there was some movement from satellite imagery or from drones or whatever it is that they're using. It could have come from Israel because we understand that Iran warned Arab neighbors that this was coming. Israel got wind of it. Israel said to Iran that it would respond no matter how big or small this action was. So it could be that the Israelis told the Americans. The big question now, though, is what happens next? Because we heard Prime Minister Netanyahu saying Iran's going to pay for this. We've heard from President Biden, the words he used were, "I will extract severe consequences." Now, that sounds like fighting talk, those words, severe consequences. But remember, we've also been here before. Back in April, when Iran launched those attacks against Israel, the US president said something similar. He then had to backtrack because obviously the last thing Joe Biden wants is for this to escalate into a bigger conflict. But it seems now that Israel is emboldened. And the fact is that wherever it goes, the US is likely going to have to follow because it has shown that it will back Israel. It has said Israel has its full support. It will defend Israel. Joe Biden does not want this to turn into an all-out war. But if Netanyahu or Prime Minister Netanyahu is going that way, it seems likely that the US may very well be drawn into it because the last thing it can do is pull away from Israel at this point.
Phil, thanks very much indeed. That's Phil Lavelle bringing us up to date from Washington, D.C. there.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get latest news from Al Jazeera.